Everybody this evening, thanks for coming. Why don't we start with the flag salute? Beth, would you lead us in the flag salute? Item C3, report out from closed session.
On item B2, the board moved by Van Sant, seconded by Barrett to deny the claim. The roll call vote was taken, 6-0 vote. On item B5, it was moved by Mulgard, seconded by Fernandez to approve a certificated leave of absence request. The vote was 6-0, roll call vote. And on item B6, it was moved by Van Sant and seconded by Barrett to deny a leave of absence request for a classified employee. Roll call vote, 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you.
The yes was to deny. There were 5 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. I forgot a little bit of housekeeping stuff, but it looks like we have a veteran group here this evening. Welcome, everybody. Don't forget to turn your cell phones off. We are live streamed, so keep the cursing to a minimum, and please speak into the microphone. I'm glad I have one fan out there, Beth. Thank you. If there are any public comments, please fill out a public comment form that's blue like this. They're located at the front door. And public comment public comment is taken for items not on the agenda. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. And I think that will cover it for tonight. So again, thank you. All right, back to the action. Can we have our student advisors report, Ava?
Is this, okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. I was at the last meeting, but my name's Ava, and I'm the new representative to the board for this year. And obviously, school hasn't started yet, so I don't have too long of a report. But I just wanted to mention a couple things that have been going on at the high school recently. So Summer Academy just ended, and that was the 2-week freshman program to get them used to the high school. And they did field trips to San Francisco State and UC Berkeley. And I attended one of the days there where there was a clubs day where a bunch of the different clubs from the high school went there to advertise to the freshmen what was going on, so that way they step on campus and they can join a club and already feel like they have a community. Fall sports practices have begun, which include girls golf, girls tennis, boys and girls water polo, football, and boys and girls cross country. And so the high school orientation for all grades was Tuesday, and something that I was personally involved in was with the leadership kids who volunteered, and this year's Ukiah High t-shirt was able to purchase, which was designed by our ISB president, Emma Fleming, and it was a new design this year, so that was exciting. And the high school band department recently had band camp, which was 30 kids at the high school for 2 days, where they learned to march, did relay races, and learned music for the marching year. And this was a bonding experience for the freshmen to get to know people who've been in band for a while when they come on campus this year. And this has happened for the last 2 years, and I thought that was a cool program that I didn't even know about until recently, so I wanted to share it here.
Thank you very much. Just a real quick note on the band camp. My daughter came back with a bruise on her shoulder from carrying the tuba around, so it was pretty fun. Oh, and man, I'm really blowing it tonight. So I'm going to backtrack 1 sec before we get to public comment. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Let's see how I finish up this meeting tonight. Item C6, public comment. We have one. Marty Arberg. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to comment. Marty Arberg, I'm the Director of the Personnel Commission. I just briefly wanted to provide you guys with some updates about our recruitment efforts. I don't know that all of you make it to the north end of the city here, but on 101, our billboard went up a couple weeks ago, and we've had raving reviews, a lot of positive feedback, so I wanted to share that with you. And in addition, to keep that information out there and going and in people's minds, we recently placed an ad in the Family Life magazine, and similar to this one, and then we took it a step further and created these cute little postcards that we could pass out as a quick reference to the information. On the back allows you to address this to a friend. As a matter of fact, Lori wrote this, "Having so much fun, wish you were here." So it's just kind of a fun way to keep that information out there. So I just wanted to share that information with you. Thank you.
Thank you. That billboard was fantastic. I'd seen it, but it really catches your eye on the highway. Item C7. Item C7, I was thinking I was blowing it again. Acceptance of public donations for August. We have a donation to Oak Manor Elementary School from canteen service. We also have another wonderful donation to Special Project with a really long number from Your Cause.
I move acceptance of donations.
Second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, it looks like we are up to employee organization reports. And tonight, I think we have UTA only.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Kubin. I have a really long thing to read, but first, just some fun things. So we're excited for our students to return on Monday. Last time I was here, I think in June, I mentioned that we had given a UTA scholarship to somebody at Ukiah, and I didn't know who it was. I know who it is. Luca Sabo, who's headed to UCSB. So we congratulate Luca. I received lots of good feedback about the professional development that happened on Monday and Tuesday. And UTA is really looking forward to working with management to make this year our best year ever. Then, here we go on to some state things. There is an initiative, I guess you would call it an initiative, campaign, Schools and Communities First, SCF campaign, with CTA, State Council, taking a lead in it. And they voted unanimously in January to support this campaign, and they announced plans to refile the initiative this week with notable improvements to implementation dates. They have expansive new small business tax relief, clarified education financing, and stronger zoning language to ensure large corporations cannot avoid reassessment. So SCF closes a loophole in Prop 13 to ensure that big corporations pay their fair share of property taxes to support public education and local community services. So it's not just schools. It raises up to $11 billion for schools and community every year and does not impact homeowners or retirees, or renters, I'm sorry. I should put my glasses on. The early and large-scale organizing effort has already garnered more than 400 endorsements, so we're hoping that the board will endorse this initiative. Refiling the initiative does mean we have to collect signatures needed to get it on the November 2020 ballot. It will take about 60 days for the Secretary of State to clear the initiative for signature gathering, and then CTA has plans to get the petitions out by the end of October, and the coalition of groups needs to collect 1.4 million signatures to put the measure on the ballot. CTA is committed to collecting 150,000 of those signatures, so stay tuned for more information on petitions. Investing in public education, dollar for dollar, grows the economy more than tax cuts and corporate subsidies. The Schools and Communities First initiative is the next step in bringing much-needed funding to our schools, colleges, and communities. And then just a little, I don't want to end on a downer, but just a little thing from CTA about making sure our schools are safe and things that NEA provides resources to teachers and to schools to aid discussions with students about gun violence, school safety, and other traumatic events, as well as a school crisis guide to help educators prevent, prepare, respond, and recover from a school crisis. And then the National Association of School Psychologists also has numerous resources in multiple languages about talking to children about violence. So CTA, UTA, and NEA ask you to please stand with us to make our community safer and work to end the epidemic of gun violence and domestic terrorism in America. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dara Brown, our leadership report.
Good evening, School Board, Superintendent Kubin, everybody else. So I'm excited to tell you about some things happening at Frank Zeke. So we've had some really great, promising, super exciting scores growth in our SBAC score, so we're really excited about that. And we really think that that's due in large part to the strong collegiality that we have among our staff, as well as our PLC work. I know I shared with you last time that we've really been working very much on creating healthy teams in our school, and even had some moves for like where I have grade assignments, teachers teaching specific grades, that I think is really going to support that continuously this year as well. And so our behavior continues to be very positive. Our culture continues to be very positive, both among the students and the staff. And we're looking at some really creative interventions. And so one of the things that we did last year that I shared with you and that we've sort of been working on for 2 years at Zeke is bringing a real focus to our Common Core state standards. And so our instruction has become more and more over time very standards focused, and our teachers have we've really immersed ourselves in the standards and understanding what the standards are asking us to teach. So we're looking forward to continuing that work, and not only doing that in our teaching teams, but also with our classified staff, so that they also understand what the standards require of us, and also communicating that to the kids in an appropriate language and in an appropriate way, so they know what we're looking at to learn. This year, we are super excited to start our first year of 95%. We're still working with our very small intervention group sizes. We have lunchtime library, which I think I explained before, but since reading is a required part of our homework, we actually have an intervention called lunchtime library. And children who are not following through on their reading homework can choose to go to lunchtime library, or they can be assigned lunchtime library, and that's exactly what it sounds like it is. After they eat lunch, they head on over to the library and they have really quiet, focused time of reading. And then we have math minutes, which right now is only on Friday afternoons because I am in charge. So what we do there is, again, kids who either are struggling with their math homework or kids who are not finishing their math homework come to me during what's normally PAT time at the end of the week on Friday. And I work with them, our SSC works with them, and other staff who are available work with the kids to really give them some support and figure out why they're not finishing and teach them what they're missing. We have, so the tech integration, and I don't want to take too long, I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm excited. The tech integration and school parent-student communication. Our upper grades are working on an electronic gradebook that one of our upper grade teachers has designed and worked very hard on. And it also links back to the standards. So it fits very nicely with our report card. It communicates very quickly to the teachers who is on target for each standard, who needs review, when they can move on. It also works to communicate with the parents for only their children's results, so that the parent can see very quickly how their child is doing. as well as what assignments they might be missing. And the student also has that ability, so to be able to see where they are and what they're missing. And we can go to the next one. Thanks. So one more back, maybe? That's okay. And so we're Purse Tigers. This is just some pictures of some of the things activities that we have around campus to support our restorative approaches. I train our certificated staff as well as our classified staff, which I'll continue to do this year, on the approach so that it's really a whole site approach. And so the yellow and green cards are restorative questions that teachers can ask students to just sort of guide them through problem solving. The green card is questions that adults can help students ask themselves about behavior, and then there's just some other fun things up there. We're working really hard on our suspension rate and discipline in general. And so we have a lot of different creative alternatives to suspension, which we feel are being really effective in terms of, rather than being punitive, they're educational in nature. And so they're really helping kids understand why it is that what their actions, how that affected themselves, how that affected other people around them, and why we wouldn't want to do that again. And so just creating healthy citizens. Our counseling support is strong. We have a positive club. That's them in the top corner. I think I shared them with you last time. They were very concerned. Most of them left. They were very concerned about establishing positive club for this year, and so they did. We worked with them, but they did a lot of PR for positive club, so we're really excited to have that back again this year. Restorative practices I talked about. Our Tiger Tail recognition is just recognizing students for positive behavior in a lot of different ways. Awards Assemblies is part of that. Our attendance challenge was these charms and dog tags that we started at the end, towards the end of the year, and it looked really promising. So we're going to continue that this year to try and improve attendance. And we just love our engaging environment. So you can see the little girl in red. She's Crazy Sweater Day in December. The little girl with her head over, she's actually our upper grades, sixth grade actually goes into our lower grades. So this is them doing a science lesson and a science song for second grade classrooms. And kinder, that's just our kinder performance. This other one in the bottom corner is super fun because at 100 days of school, we dress up like we're 100 years old. So, and staff does it, it's super fun. You have to come see us. You can do the next one. And then in leadership, I have to say that I feel very privileged and very honored to be a part of the leadership group. They're very collegial, extremely supportive. There's room for just to be able to say, this is where I feel like I fell short. What do you guys do about that? How can I improve that? And there's room to say, wow, I feel like we're doing really great with this. And it's just a great group of people. Leadership is continuing to work on those focused initiatives so that we're improving what we know works versus just trying to sort of shotgun everything. And we're getting ready for school to start, so we're continuing to find what improves teaching and learning and attendance. And most of the people are going into the second year of CAPS, and that's super exciting. So they'll be working on their teacher teams, improving instruction and targeted planning. Chris Sweet and I have the great opportunity to go into our third year of CAPS at Davis.
The Principals Network.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So we're excited about that. So that's it. Thanks for letting me tell you about the amazing things.
Dara, thank you. I have to tell you, as a parent, there's nothing more exciting that makes me more happy than to see you guys so excited about the school year. I'm like, dude, okay, they're in it. Let's go.
We are all there. So thanks. Thank you guys.
All right. Item D1, board member representatives to committees.
So this is the opportunity. We love board participation on our committees, and they are listed there: the District Advisory Committee, UTA negotiations, CSEA negotiations, and the City Schools Committee. These are committees that are facilitated by the superintendent, so I'd like to know who's interested in these, and you will get a follow-up letter from me appointing you to the committee. So, and listed there are who the representatives were last year.
Zoe?
I'm happy to stay on where I was.
Which was
That is
CSEA
the
negotiations.
If you wouldn't mind having me another year, that was fun this year. I'll do better at attending, sorry. I would love to, if that's
Okay.
okay with you.
I'll let you know, Tyler.
Thank
No,
you.
I'm just kidding. UTA?
I can speak for B. I think B and I would like to stay on that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I'll be happy to stay as the District Advisory Committee representative.
All right, and then we have a new board member. Oh, that's right. Would you have any interest? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have a new board member who wasn't able to attend tonight because he has a family, and I might suggest, since he does have experience with the DAC, that you might consider him as a
Okay,
person to work on that committee.
sounds good. And then we have the City Schools Committee. Anne was on that last year.
I can continue to serve if desired.
Okay. So you will be hearing from me soon, and we'll get you the dates of all those meetings for this year. So thank you.
Awesome. Okay, moving on to item D2, approval of the 12-month board agenda planning calendar.
So on this calendar, we have routine items that we know come up every year, and then we've also tried to map out other items. I'll just say that we're still in the process of designing our strategic plan revision, and so this may change a little bit. This is a working document, just so you know. So if you think of something in the future that you'd like to talk about, there's always an opportunity at the end of board meetings to add those. But this is what we have so far that we anticipate for the year for the board agenda calendar. And it's a good opportunity to give us feedback or add anything that you know that you'd like on there now. But just know that it's a working document.
I'm not sure if this is appropriate. One item that we were working on was having the presence of our drug and gunpowder sniffing dog, having a report in December. Does that go on this particular calendar?
We can do that, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, so December we'll have a report on our school resource officer program,
Thank you.
including the K-9. Jack?
I'm, Trustee Nelson, I wanted to comment on something. I'm looking forward, I'm just sort of scrolling through, so maybe it's here, but don't we in September or October have a report on the SBAC test scores?
We do, and we usually do it with our LCAP revisions, but we should specify that on there.
It is under September, the first bullet point, SBAC data.
Oh,
and
oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be at the September meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
And then first quarter strategic plan update with
Thank
data
you.
report, including SBAC, is in October as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, seeing no more yellow pins. Thank you for that report.
we'd love approval on the 12-month agenda planning calendar.
Thank you for the prod. Is there a motion to approve the 12-month agenda planning calendar?
I so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, so item D3, board workshop dates and topics for 2019 and 2020.
So staff would like to continue the work that we started last year to focus on our strategic plan, our student performance data, continuing our governance work with Steve Zweiback, And again, a big chunk of work this year, especially this fall, will be on the strategic plan revision. So we'd like to stay focused there so we can keep diving deeply into our improvement work. We are planning to do some more visits this fall, school site visits, and we'll be in touch with you about who would like to come with us. That was a great learning experience last year. We'd like to do that before we start our strategic planning process, just so we're gaining more ideas. So we'd like to kind of stick with something similar to what we did last year without new topics added. We don't have proposed dates yet because I'm working with Steve right now to design we are working with Steve. Tyler and Megan were part of that process on setting some dates around that. So I'd like to set some of the board workshop dates around that as well. So that was my thinking, but I wanted to get your input.
Thoughts or comments?
I'm just, so your suggestion is that there are no topics. It's all part of the strategic planning process?
The topics will be our student performance data and work around our strategic plan.
So there would be one about student performance data?
Yes.
And then the rest
Well,
about?
no, we'll do more than one. They'll be cycled around our improvement cycle. We'll do a spring one, a fall one, and then a strategic planning piece around that with the cycle. And then we still want Steve to continue to work with us, with the board, and it really will be around our strategic plan to make sure that we continue to gain focus. The other option is to come up with topics that the board would like to learn more about. In the past, we've done some work around our English learner program, food service, special ed, programs like that.
So I guess I'm just want to repeat what I think I'm hearing you say. So out of the 4 workshops, you're suggesting 2 of them be specifically about student performance data and 2 of them be about strategic planning?
And governance.
So one of them is about governance and then one of them is about strategic planning?
Yes, we will probably have, I assume we're going to have more than that because of the strategic plan. And I know that is super vague, but I'm working with Steve on dates right now and designing the process. But I guess I'm more interested in the concept around this than nailing down dates. I'd love to continue what we did last year with the board and Steve and data and really focusing in on our progress rather than add additional topics that the staff is reporting on. But, so I guess it's more of conceptual direction that I'd love to get tonight, unless you want it to revert back to what we used to do with reports. I think we could use one more year of really working with Steve and getting super clear in our plan and super focused.
Ann?
I don't have a problem with that. I think that we have to be open to some issue coming up that we're not expecting. But we've always been open to that happening, so I'm fine moving forward at this point with what you've laid out.
Any other thoughts or comments? All right. Thank you, Deb. All right, item D4, and I think Penny is going to talk to us about the 45-day budget revised based on the state enacted budget.
Good evening. Get my clicker here. Okay, this is our usual 45-day budget revise. And we have good news and bad news. And we're going to just talk about the reason we do it. I'm going to review an error in our special ed revenue that was in the adopted budget that was discovered in the review by our Mendocino County Office of Ed staff. And then the significant changes since May revise and our next steps. So basically, we do this particular budget approval according to Ed Code It's an annual approval, and it's based on the difference in what was adopted, the assumptions known at that time, and then when the state enacts the budget, frequently there are changes that our budget will need to incorporate. So that's why we do this particular report. And so here, this particular slide is showing you the spreadsheet of numbers is from our multi-year projection at the 2019-20 budget adoption just in June. And it's that first page of the multi-year projection that shows our revenues, our expenditures, and then the net increase, decrease in that general fund balance. And this is based on the unrestricted side of the budget. And what the update is that the federal revenue for special education was inadvertently counted twice. It was placed in the budget 2 times. And so, as you all know, the special ed budget never receives enough revenue to fully support itself. So that's where we contribute from the unrestricted side of the budget to the restricted side. And so the arrow, the black arrow on the slide, is pointing to the 1920 column and the contribution amount, which was lower than it should be because of that inflated revenue. So what that means, when you look at that, the bottom row of numbers that shows the net increase, decrease across, I'm going to go to this next slide, and that bottom set of numbers is the one that's now the very top row, and then you'll see the next set that is the updated amount. And so the second column of numbers over is this current year, and that's where we see the biggest significant change. And so you'll see at the bottom, this reflects the fund balance and reserves. And so I've updated the multi-year projection, and you'll see that we still maintain our board-required 9% reserve with an excess of $175,000 rather than $1,175,000. So, it was a significant overstatement of revenue, but on the bright side, it is very early in the year. As our adopted budget was reviewed, the County Office of Education discovered it. We now can implement that into the changes into the budget. It'll be reflected in the first interim budget report. And as you pull the numbers through on this multi-year projection, you'll see that next year we end up with the 8.65%. And so a little bit, about $500,000 short of our 9%, but then we go back up to the 9% in the second out year. So while, it's a significant, I'm not trying to understate it, but it doesn't, it doesn't take us too far below our minimum reserve. And then the other thing to remember, though, on this multi-year projection is that we don't include any salary compensation increase because we haven't determined what that is yet until we have the true-up portion of our formula in the fall, which we're all pretty familiar with doing. So you guys may recall that we had a bit of another special ed budget issue last year at the same time, and it was also special ed. So what I've done to eliminate this occurring in the future is I've talked with our County Office of Education, and we've agreed to have a meeting in early May each year. They release the special education numbers that we use to build our budget. So that's going to be like our first step in building our budget. And in the middle of May, we will sit down with the Mendocino County Office of Education, and they will review our special ed budget. So in my mind, that should eliminate any additional issues with special education budgets. And all I can say is that we double-checked and we triple-checked, but we just did not catch this error, so. And I take full responsibility for it. And with that said, I will move on to the good news. We didn't have any change in the local control funding formula from adopted to what the state enacted. And then this just so that everybody's clear, there is still no one-time discretionary funds in the budget. And, in past years, we'd always had some one-time money, but we didn't expect any, and there's no change there. The CalSTRS expense increase from when we adopted the budget to what the state enacted actually was a bit of an increase for the expense, which will cost us, as you can see by this slide, approximately $123,000. However, on the CalPERS side of the expense, there was a bit of a decrease, which will save us a little bit more, which is $167,000 overall. And then on a completely separate special education proposal, we are estimated to receive approximately $583,000 in additional revenue for the preschool students 3 to 5 years old who have IEPs, individual education programs.
Can I ask a question there? Does that additional funds come with additional expectations, or it's to continue doing what we're doing?
I have a slide on that so we can move forward here. There were two pieces to the state enacted budget's special ed additional revenue. And one of them was to equalize funding for all SELPAs. And unfortunately, that funding looks to bring all the lower funded SELPAs to the statewide target rate of $557 and some change per ADA. However, as you can see in the green section of this slide at the bottom, our SELPA already receives $841 per ADA. So that means we will not receive any equalization funding. We can be fortunate that we're held harmless, that, of course, none would be taken from us. So that's that piece of it. The piece that we will receive is this funding for the 3 to 5 year olds with IEPs. And so as we walk through this, those funds will come directly to school districts. They won't flow through the SELPA. So that's something new for us with special education funding. And then that second section of the slide, that right now we don't know whether it'll come directly to us as restricted or unrestricted. So that'll be really important, which manner that it's given to us. And the estimated amount is almost $9,000 per pupil, which is, significant. But we will currently incorporate that into the budget for the first interim budget report in December and count it as just one-time money, because the state legislation would have to enact ongoing allocations in 2021 to make it ongoing. So until that happens, we can't consider it ongoing. But for the good, bottom line is $583,000 for us this year.
So will that offset the $1 million double counting the state?
That will depend on whether it comes to us as restricted or unrestricted.
Wouldn't we be transferring it anyway, even if it was unrestricted, into that contributions?
Well, it depends on if we have to make additional expenses.
That's what I was
Yeah.
saying. We don't know yet whether there's additional expectations on
Right. And we just don't have it yet. We should soon, because it's for this year, so we'll want to spend it on this year's kiddos. Next steps, that's pretty much it for our 45-day enacted budget and then adjustment of the budget. You'll see at the next board meeting, September 12th, we'll present our unaudited actuals for 2018-19. The fiscal department's been hard at it all summer, working on closing the books. In October, we will calculate our formula true-up, and that would then complete and make any adjustments for the 18-19 negotiations, and then include an estimate for the 19-20 for salary compensation, and then in December, first interim budget report. And that's all I have tonight.
Any other questions? It's not mandatory. And did you it look like you were making a move for the pin?
I was just wondering how you did discover the error.
Mendocino Office County of Education, as they reviewed our adopted budget, which is, of course, one of their main purposes is budget review of the school districts. So they do a very thorough analysis of adopted budgets, and they discovered the error.
And you wouldn't have discovered it from comparing last year's budget to this year's budget because there was new funding sources?
Yes, there were several changes that came about through the SELPA review and the changing in programs and so forth. And so, that's why we double-checked and triple-checked, and we spoke with them, and we just didn't sit down with them, which is what we've determined would make sure that this doesn't occur in the future.
Yeah, that sounds like a good process to put in place. Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with anything? All right, Penny, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Yeah. We still love you.
thank you.
Looking for approval of
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the 45-day budget revise?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstentions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
So,
And item D5, go for it.
all right, Public Safety Power Shutoff, the PSPS, and our preparedness plans. Yeah. So, I'm happy to report to you that we have been planning, and we've used a broad avenue of knowledge within our district to create these plans. And I've listed the folks that were involved with our current PSPS plans. Communications, we had elementary, secondary principals, teachers, we included student services, special education input, human resources, of course, food service, maintenance, operations, transportation, and then the fiscal department to pay for it. What the results of our meeting determined was that the safest place for students is at school, that our schools will remain open as much as possible, and that the sites are prepared for the outages, and that there are actually many possible scenarios, and so many that we really can't plan for all of them, but we're planning for as many as possible. And what I mean by that is that we could have notice of an outage. We could not have notice. It could occur while school's in session. We could have notice of power back on, but would that be accurate or not? So say it occurred in the evening and then it was planned to be on at 10 o'clock the next morning. Well, we could plan to hold school at that time, but what if it didn't come back on? So, there's just an awful lot of different scenarios that we would, that are possible. So we wanted to consider as many of them as we could. Let's see, the other part would be, we definitely determined a need for backup generators in a few different areas, emergency lighting in particular areas, and we've purchased and are purchasing, and installations have occurred and are planned to occur. And I'll get into more detail on that as we go through. But also, another result of the planning was that for the 2021 school calendar, which we'll be working on here soon in the fall, we'll need to build in additional make-up school days in case this occurs, because currently the state is saying that these planned power outages will not be considered emergency, and we're really unclear as to whether or not waivers will be allowed.
Can I ask a question just to be really clear, because I feel like I'm missing something here. If the power's off, will kids be in school? Or are we going to be not clear about that?
I'll just say that it depends on how long it's going to be off. If we have multi-day power outages, of course. If it's going to be out for an hour, we
Okay.
definitely will have school. And Penny's going to get into some late start, early release schedules that we've developed to account for if the power's going to be out for a couple of hours in the morning and we can still have school. The Office of Emergency Services has, they came to our superintendent's meeting and talked about how important, as much as possible as we can, for schools to be open. They have a lot of employees who have kids, and we really kind of cripple the system when we close our schools. If we have multi-day power outages, of course, we cannot remain open. It just sort of depends on how long it is.
Okay, because that's what I couldn't quite tell from this, it was so optimistic. I was like, are we going to school if there's no power for the whole day? But it sounds like if it's really out for an entire day, we
will close
couldn't be.
school.
Okay.
Yeah, and realizing that the best place for kids is in school, we'll do the best we can to do that. But here are some of the situations. Well, first of all, the communication for all parents and staff at the beginning of the school year, and that's already
Next Friday.
in place. And then when we have the announcement, all communications would occur within an hour of the announcement. And we would attempt to use all normal means of communication until they become unavailable. That includes pre-recorded parent calls, pre-written parent texts, media calls, including the radio, press releases, Facebook posts, USD website notices, and using all of those until they aren't available, if that's what happens with a power outage. So food service, multiple areas to consider. If students are in school, they have to receive meals. So Jim Stewart, Director of Food Service, will be identifying and purchasing shelf-stable food items to hold at sites to provide to students so that a reimbursable meal can be made without power, put together for students. And he, of course, would follow the standard nutrition guidelines for that. There's concern of the lighting in cafeterias for staff. Emergency lighting is available. Food storage. This is the big generator backup system that's in progress right now. We'll be ordering the generator tomorrow. It's on your consent agenda tonight for approval. And then the infrastructure for making our kitchen freezers and refrigerators, available. This system, it's going to take probably 6 to 8 weeks to complete. But it is in the works, and, Gabe's been working on that diligently to ensure that that happens as quickly as possible. And then the thought would be, too, that when we know that the power outage would be for more than a couple of hours, all of the food from the sites would come in and can be stored at the high school in the freezers, because I think we have 2 freezers and then however many walk-ins. There's room for that so that we can prevent the loss of the food. Technology. All the sites have one analog phone that'll continue to function during a power outage. We currently have battery backup for voice and data via Wi-Fi, and those are good for 30 minutes. There's a backup inverter-style generator, and somebody can correct me if I didn't quite get that right, 3,000 watts or more, and that's for UHS, Pomalita, and Eagle Peak. And that'll give them the ability to extend the voice data and the PA system for 4 hours. And that's currently in place for them. That was felt to be very necessary to be able to communicate across those larger campuses in that manner when we had our planning meeting. The transportation home to school, late start, early release, And that, we felt if we did, if we adjusted each site by exactly 2 hours for a late start, so if a school started at 8:05, it would start at 10:05. And then as they all are staggered to meet our transportation needs, then those adjustments would continue with the busing. So whatever the time is, it would be exactly 2 hours later, later to start or earlier to release. And we felt that was something that is doable.
Penny,
Because,
sorry for interrupting.
that's okay.
I don't know what that going to school 2 hours late accomplishes. How does that and the power issue?
I think that's regarding the timing of when the power's out. Did you want to share, Deb?
Yeah, and Tyler, we would use this for other weather too. A lot of districts have developed late start or early release schedules related to snow or flooding or whatever, because sometimes the waters, last year they
Right.
did. And so if we had a schedule like this, we could still have school. We can feed our kids, they can be in a safe place and get to school. So we could use this, if power goes out when school is in session, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and we know it's going to be out for the rest of the day, we will have to close our schools early. So we want to plan for that by an early release schedule, which would get our kids out 2 hours early.
Got it.
So,
And the late start would be if we were told the power would be back on the next day, but the transportation has to start so early. If we had a later start, then we could progress through and hopefully when we hear that it'll actually occur. But that was the thought with that. And then also, Gabe and the maintenance crew have in place now the generator backup system for the bus fueling station, because that would be out and we would need to be able to fuel our buses. And the other backup system is for the radio repeater for the bus radios. They have those in place already. They've really been working hard to get all of this done. And then more on the maintenance, the emergency lights, we've been purchasing them in the quantities that were allowed because they've limited them because all the school districts are trying to order them, and getting those out to sites. And those would be for the restrooms and other areas that have no or very low lights. We're asking sites to identify, where students may need to be relocated, if there's classrooms that are dark and so forth, to get all of those identified ahead of time as the plan for a plan. Eagle Peak, the generator for the septic system is in place, and it's my understanding our maintenance crew did all of that work themselves. Our generator system, and then the facility infrastructure I've already mentioned for the central kitchen is in progress, and we have a mid-September date. We're hoping to have that all set up. Fiscal, what we're spending on all of that is right now around $80,000 to get all of that taken care of. And then unknowns at this time would be loss to food service program for loss of reimbursable meals. And then if we ended up with any ADA loss, we'd have to determine what that is when it occurs. And hopefully the state won't be as strict as what we're hearing regarding waivers and so forth. But that's pretty much it for now. It's not static, it's ongoing, and hopefully always improving our emergency preparedness for our public safety power shutoffs.
Penny, I just wanted to say thank you so much to you and all the staff members who worked on this. I know we can't think of everything, but this is really great, and Gabe, to you and the crew for working, getting things in place already. Just totally appreciate all of your good work.
Thank you.
And there are questions which I didn't see. Ann?
Does everybody normally gas up when they come back in?
So the standard for buses is half tank, no less than half tank. That's been the long-term standard. At the end of this summer, or end of the school year, beginning with summer school, I revised the standard to require daily fueling on the buses. We didn't know. We didn't have the generators in place. We do have it now. We've kept the standards. One thing we learned with the last evacuations is having our buses at full capacity is important. And then for our white fleets, that's all the maintenance vehicles, it's the standard is a half tank. Half tank is, that'll give them almost 2 weeks of operational capacity because they usually don't do that much driving, so. So yeah, there you go.
Great, good.
One little note, and it's my fault, I think I probably gave you incorrect information. The lead time on the generator, I think in the report you had it as 6 to 8 weeks. It's 4 to 6 weeks, so hopefully we get it in. That's what kind of syncs up with our projected, mid-September date, so.
I was wondering about that math. Good,
That's,
okay.
that's my fault, so.
Thank you.
Zoe?
So, just to make sure I'm understanding, if we don't get a notice and the kids are in school and it's 9 o'clock in the morning and the power goes out, we'll have to go to an early release for that day?
Likely, yes.
And if the power goes out or we're told it's gonna be out the next day, all day, we assume, we would not have school?
That is, yes, that is correct. We will have, as you all know about me, it's really important to have school. It's the best place for kids. We feed a lot of our kids most of their meals. And so keeping school open is really important for our community. So we will have school as much as we can. But if the power is going to be out for a whole day and we know that it's going to be out for a whole day, we will not have school.
And then, I thought I heard something about the end of last year that when we have to close for like the smoke days, that we got the waiver and we didn't have to make those up. Is that changing next year or this year?
The state set some guidelines for standards for smoke, and with the power shutoffs, they have said that they likely will not approve waivers from school districts. So I'm concerned about that we don't have days built into our calendar this year, but we negotiate the calendar. So I think it would be difficult to put those days in. In my letter that's going home to parents next Friday, I have stated in there that we should expect to make up some school days. If we close for power outages, likely we will have to make up school days.
And would we do that at the end, or would we try and take like the day after Easter, those kinds of days, or is that just?
We'll have to figure it out, but yes, and likely, unfortunately, our attendance might be low. So.
Ann?
I had a question about this service center. So is there a generator on this service center, and has it not been determined to be a high priority place? Not that it's not a high priority place,
So
but.
there is not a generator, and unfortunately, this building is not conducive to having a generator in place. So there's a couple of reasons why. One of them is the way the electrical system is designed. There's a central switch gear outside, but all of the internal service gear, which is where you'd have to tie into for the critical loads, is inside, and it's actually on this middle floor here. But more importantly, there's really no viable location for a generator that we could operate, at least permanently. I've played around with the idea of maybe bringing in a portable generator on a trailer, but the only way to really get the system going would be, basically extension cords. The server stack is on the second floor. So, long-term it can be done. It's a matter of money. Short-term, there's not really an easy, viable way to do it. When we looked at the big picture, it really seemed like our focus should be on the central kitchen. Jim's assessment is he has about $30,000 there, perishables. So if it happens one time, that was half the cost of the installation, so.
Good point.
And feeding the kids is probably more important than
Right.
keeping
And
things
then
going.
related to that then is MCOE and payroll, and what's our plan around there?
MCOE does have a plan for that, and they will have a computer lab available for our payroll folks if it comes on a critical day, and we can maintain whatever we need to do to make that happen. They have enough room for, I believe, up to 20 folks that can operate, and the computers will be on whatever their system is for backup. It's in place and ready.
Is there anything we need to do to keep our payroll reporting up to date? Or is it kind of one of those negative systems where everybody's paid automatically unless you enter something else?
No, our financial software is web-based, so as long as they can operate, then we will, it's viable. And then if not, then we'll go to another county office of ed that is.
But you don't need everybody to have all of their information input.
No, it'll operate, and we could do payroll and then adjustments later.
Okay.
That payroll will be able to take care of that.
I mean, the chance
I'm
of this
confident.
happening on the 3 days that
I
you're
know.
doing payroll is probably very slight, but.
That's when it'll
On the
happen.
contrary, I'd say.
That's when it'll
If it
happen.
happens, that's when it will happen. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gabe and Penny. Item D6, I'd like to open a public hearing.
Good evening. We are opening the public hearing for approval and disposal of obsolete instructional materials. We have approved new science materials for grades 6 through 8 and for biology, chemistry, and physics. And we are requesting, we've requested back in June to start the process. And we have posted for 60 days, and now this is the public hearing to allow the public to address the board on the obsolete of the materials.
Thank you, Katie. All right. Close the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Thank you.
I move approval of disposal of the obsolete instructional materials.
I thought we had to wait for a month. No. Thank you
Second.
for that motion.
Done.
And the second?
I
Megan.
moved approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. Oh, the first reading. That's why I'm mixed up. Item D7, the first reading adoption of revised board policy 5145.12, search and seizure.
So we've had a request from school sites to be able to potentially use handheld metal detectors as hopefully a deterrent for vaping on campus. And so we brought this, many districts have a policy regarding the use of metal detectors, and so we brought this policy forward. We'd like to have it adopted tonight so that we can start the school year with it. It can also, of course, detect weapons. They can, but our sites would like to use them as yet another strategy to deal with vaping in our schools.
Ann?
What's the plan for implementation, if there is one?
So what typically happens is if a student is reported with anything, with vaping, whatever it might be, the administrator calls them down and talks with them. They can conduct a search of their belongings, their pockets, they empty their pockets. And the next level of this would be if they don't find anything yet, students have reported them having seen vaping in a class or wherever it might be, the administrator can use the handheld metal detector to potentially detect the vaping device.
Because maybe they're hiding it on their person
Yes,
somewhere.
that's usually what happens. Absolutely, they are very hard to find.
Megan and I had a meeting with Deb and Mr. Iverson, Jason, and it was interesting. The vaping thing, I've seen this stuff in public. I didn't realize how little I knew, and it's vaping for both nicotine and marijuana. The products, one of the products that was shared with us was so small, I would estimate it was the size of a quarter, I mean, incredibly small. The other information that I learned about is that the spike in use at some of our campuses towards the end of last year was just incredible. We have a lot of education to do. hopefully this, in my opinion, it seems like a deterrent we should explore. We're not sure if it's how well it's gonna work, but it's something that we need to look at because the use is so rampant now that, hopefully we get ahead of it at least a little bit.
I'll just add too, we'll share with the board, Brian Barrett has put together a parent education presentation that is in draft form right now, but we'll share that with the board as well. We're going to use that at our secondary schools this year to just educate parents more about what they can look for. You know, it's really disappointing to see how much they are marketing to kids, and I'm hoping that we can all be advocates to try and fix that. Some of the marketing materials are Fruity Pebbles, Nilla wafers. I mean, it's pretty sad to look at it all. And again, this would just be yet another deterrent for kids.
I'm all for education, I'm all for deterrence. This one just makes me a little bit nervous from a civil rights point of view, so I'm interested to hear what the public and what the secondary school secondary school students have to say.
Zoe?
I'm really concerned about the increase in vaping, and I'm surprised that they're metal, that they're not plastic, but obviously I'm not very informed. But I would like to see us, not just this, but what else we can do to really sort of aggressively prevent kids from bringing vape pens and paraphernalia to school, because we need to do something. We need to do something about it.
I will be happy to share the plan. We shared it with Tyler, with Trustee
Tyler's wonderful,
Nelson
thank you.
and Trustee Van Sant. And I'll be happy to share it with the rest of the board as well. We've got a plan in place for students, staff, and parents for next year. And
For this year.
sorry, I keep thinking, well, it hasn't started yet. It's Monday, no. So, and, you know, we're certainly open to suggestions. This is the topic of discussion of every single superintendent who I talk to. I have reached out to other superintendents to ask what they are doing. And our plan is really in line with what some other districts are doing. But we are certainly open to help from the community and other agencies to help with this problem.
And maybe increase the effectiveness of our dog.
Yes. So
That
we,
didn't seem like that really.
it's really hard to detect. They are really hard to detect, just in general. We did a lot of work last year at the high school. Our social emotional counselors did work in with every single freshman in PE classes. And they did work with the staff. They have no vaping signs all over their classrooms at the high school. I'm just using the high school as an example. Yet, you know, we still hear reports. And I would just urge parents and kids to help us by reporting it so that we can be more on top of it if they see something in a classroom. And that's the case with anything, with vaping, with any safety issue that they see. We really need their help in saying something.
The meeting that Megan and I went to, I felt that I learned a lot, and I'm hoping that maybe the information that was shared with Megan and I think would be really good for all of us to hear, just so we kind of get a sense of the ideas that the district is going to try, and yeah, mostly so we know which direction we're heading and how that feels like it's the right direction, but we should all know that. So if we could do that, that'd be great.
We will do it.
All right, thank you. So that was the first reading.
Don't we need
We would
to
like approval.
adopt that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Really blowing it tonight. Is there a motion, and now I've lost it, is there a motion to adopt the revised board policy 5145.12, search and seizure?
I make that motion.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed for now.
And abstentions? All right, thank you.
And just to clarify, I'm just opposed because I'm not that familiar with the implementation yet. So if I was more familiar with the implementation, I most likely would have voted yes.
Okay, superintendent's report, item E1.
Just a few things. We are very excited for the school year to start. We can't wait for kids to come on Monday. We do a lot of preparation and planning, and seeing their awesome faces when they come to school is really fun. So Dara represents, I would say, the feeling of all of our staff in the district. We can't wait for school to start. With that, a couple of things. One is, Dara mentioned the Principals Network. We will be implementing year 2 of that in our district. We have a waiting list of people wanting to get in. We are adding teachers in this year, so it will be a teacher team with the principal. We have a waiting list right now of about 10 principals, and we can take up to 120 people total. So it's exciting, and really great work going on there. And you can see some of the results we haven't shown you the results yet, but the results at Frank Zeke, due to a multitude of factors, one of them being the work that they're doing with professional learning communities. So it's really exciting to see that Frank Zeke related to that. I really want to thank the District Service Center team. The teamwork that is exhibited, especially during this time, and I can see how tired they all are. I'm looking at Katie's face right now, especially. Yes. The amount of work that they do over the summer with hiring, with pitching in to help with sign-in sheets. I see them, our whole staff, at events throughout the last 3 weeks, the amount of professional development that is delivered to classified and certificated staff. Deb, our superintendent's office, the fiscal department, Marta, our district secretary, gave a workshop today on effective translations. And so everybody in our technology department, Doug, Gabe, the work that is done to get school ready is really remarkable, and watching our teams work together really warms my heart. So thank you so much for all that you all do to make all that happen. It's a lot. So, and I think that will be it. I'm super excited to welcome our new staff, and we had a really fun event yesterday at our all staff welcome back. Audrey McCombs, our band director, and Sid Bishop, math teacher at Ukiah High, played the national anthem, and just listening to the staff sing along, it was really moving. So Chris Sweet was our keynote speaker, and he talked about ACEs and loving kids and loving each other. So anyway, it was a nice way to kick off the year. And to food service staff, they prepare food for us. And I really appreciate all the good work. And we cannot wait for kids to come on Monday. And I know probably most parents can't wait for school to open on Monday.
Thank you, Deb. Are there any board reports? Go for it, B.
Not a board report, but just thank you for the video. It was great. You guys did a great job. It was so fun.
All right, seeing no other pins, we are on the consent agenda.
I move the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second that.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? And I'm sorry, I didn't register my aye. Aye. And abstentions? All right, motion carries. We are on planning.
Good job, Tyler.
Did I mention?
Well, I would like to come. I haven't been in a long time.
That's awesome. One of our newest board members. Congratulations, trustee.
I would like to come because I am not going to be available on September 12th. I'll be out of town.
I do not want to come. I have a dental appointment.
I couldn't help it, so sorry.
Have fun. I'm sorry, what was the date on that?
It's a day after Labor Day, in case you were planning an extended Labor Day.
I will be getting ready to pick grapes, but that sounds really wonderful.
And Debbie, we have to schedule a special board meeting in 2 weeks during the week, 5 o'clock, so I thought you could get to the board members what the availability is. We have 3 topics.
You know that we need to have it done by the 29th, so I'm looking at Wednesday, the 28th, for a noon time.
We think we need longer than that. We think we need it to be a 5 o'clock meeting. It will all be closed session.
Okay, so then, we could look at Monday, the 26th, or Wednesday, the 28th.
I'm good for Monday.
I'm not good for Monday, but carry on.
I'm not good for Monday.
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday.
I'm good for Wednesday.
I'm good for either day.
Yeah. Wednesday the 28th?
Wednesday, the 28th at 5 o'clock.
I don't have access to my master family calendar at this time, so I don't know.
You'll email everybody? Okay, great.
But it doesn't, I'm not seeing anything. It's a problem.
I'm available. 28th?
I'll email everybody and just.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Nobody wants anything on the agenda, it looks like. This meeting's adjourned.
Closed
So we're
session.
going back up?
We're